let's go ahead and get started. You guys ready? All right. Welcome to the My Life Seminar. This is the seminar that I've put together to really help you understand how to manage your life and your priorities around biblical priorities. I'm really excited about what we've put together, and because I've really kind of poured my heart and soul into it, and along the way I'll be telling you some stories about how we got to where we're at, how we learned what we learned, and why I think it's so valuable. So it's a real honor to be sharing with you today these principles that will hopefully manage your life even better. Go ahead and open up your teaching here today. It's called My Life. And if you have your Life on Purpose Growth Handbook, it goes right in the section there called My Life. There's no fill-ins on this. I'm sure you might want to take some notes, but you can go ahead and do that and get that in your book there, and it's a pretty easy way to work through it today. So let's start, and let me read to you this opening verse and then talk a little bit. And this is going to be both lecture and interactive. There'll be both aspects to this, and it'll be personal and private as well too. So there's some different dynamics to what we'll be sharing here today as well. Let me read this verse at the top of the page. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 15 through 16 in the Phillips translation. Live life then with a due sense of responsibility, not as men who do not know the meaning and purpose of life, but as those who do. Make the use of your time despite all the difficulties of these days. The goal of our lives as Christian is to live our life on purpose, live it with meaning, live it with strategy, live it with definition. And certainly as the more you walk with the Lord, the easier that's going to become, the more that you're going to feel His richness and His goodness in your life. So your life is and will continue to be what you allow it to be. I know that's kind of a straightforward statement, but that is the truth. Your life is what you allow it to be for the most part. Now, there are certainly some exceptions to that. There are outside forces sometimes, but for most of us, and I would say probably everybody in the room, it's pretty much what you allow it to be, at least in your head, at least in your thinking. If you live strategically and purposefully, it is because somewhere along the line you decided to take responsibility for your life. If you feel as if you're just along for the ride, that your choices have little or no impact, or that your destiny is in the hands of others, then you have given up one of the most wonderful gifts offered to us, living with purpose and design. So today you will learn sound, time-tested, biblically principled approach to establishing godly priorities for your life. If you will invest yourself in this experience, you will have the tools necessary to assume responsibility of what God has trusted to you, and you'll be able to partner closely with Him in discovering and then living out His very best plans for your life. So that's where we're going today with this, and that's the direction that we're at. Let me share with you guys a story that I probably shared in a sermon, but I don't think recently by any chance. And most of you guys know that at the church, we're a pretty transparent ministry here. We don't try to pretend to be something we're not. We're not trying to air all of our dirty laundry, but on the other hand, we want people to understand that we are real people. As a matter of fact, our vision statement at the church is real people, those are the first two words, completely in love with God, unconditionally loving His people, and passionately serving Him. So part of the nature of who we are is to be authentic and real. And so in the process of that, we've told stories, of which I'm going to tell you one right now. Most of you guys know that there were seasons of our life, especially the early seasons of mine and Sherry's relationship, that were unusually difficult and probably unnecessarily difficult, to be honest with you. Looking back on it now, it was probably our own youth and immaturity and selfishness and that caused some of the conflict and the problems we have. Nonetheless, we are very, very different people. But you guys know what that's all about too. So we hit a point in our life, and we had two young boys. I think Josh was really young. He might have been less than a year old. So this is probably back, he was born in 81. So we're talking about probably 4, 5, 6 years into our marriage, right around in there. I don't remember the exact dates. And we were spending, we had the opportunity to spend some time together and to get away and to be together and to hopefully reconnect in some ways. The truth of the matter is we had really no money to go take a vacation, but some friends of my parents had a beautiful kind of a beachfront sort of condominium timeshare thing that they gave to us for a week, and So I decided I was going to go. Even Sherry didn't go, I was going to go. And she heard about it. She said, well, I'm going too. So we were forced to be together for a while. Anybody know what that's like sometimes, you know? And so one of the things that we do, and we did during this week together, is that we really enjoy movies. I have no idea which movie that we were watching that particular time, but we went to a movie theater, and we go to matinees a lot because our schedule allows for us to go during the day, which is kind of a nice thing. However, especially if you go back to the early 80s, before digital projection, now some people don't remember this because you're just too young, but before digital projection, it wouldn't be uncommon to go to a movie theater, especially in the first part of the day. The projectionists are just arriving. They're trying to get everything all set up. And they would turn on cameras and they'd start to roll whatever the film would be projecting at that time. And I don't know why it is, but projectors would just be out of focus, you know. So you'd be sitting there and eventually the movie would come on. And it could be anywhere from slightly out of focus to kind of like significantly out of focus. But even if it's just a little bit out of focus, it presents a problem for you, and here's the problem from my perspective. The problem is this, is that the idea of going to a movie is that you escape into another experience or reality or something for a season. You know, that's kind of a really good movie takes you away to someplace else. You know, that's why maybe that's why I like them so much. I like to have that experience, but a really good movie will do that. Now, when a projector in those days was out of focus, it wasn't that you could not tell what was going on or hear the dialogue, because you could. You could tell what was going on, and you could follow the dialogue. But here's the problem. As a consumer, and as somebody that came to be entertained, all I'm thinking about is this. Come on, will somebody please go focus that projector? Are you with me, you know? And so you're hoping somebody else is going to do it. And I know how many times that I ended up going to you go to the concession booth and tell them, and they kind of look at you like, what do you want me to do? But anyway, it kind of works out along the way. And then once the projector is focused, all of a sudden, you're able to step into your life. Are you with me? Life was out of focus. The film was out of focus, right? And the Lord really quickened to me at that point in my life, and I think Sherry as well too, is that we were living our lives out of focus. Now, it wasn't that life wasn't being lived, and it wasn't that things weren't moving forward, and it wasn't that, to some degree, some things were being accomplished. But the vividness and the reality and the strategy and the connection behind it, that's what was missing. Are you with me? We were just living our life out of focus. Specifically, he talked to us about living our marriage out of focus, that there was no focus to our marriage, that he had put us together for a reason, but we were living out of focus. But to broaden that out, is that I think he was saying is that we were living our individual lives out of focus. Let me say two things about that. Very, very few people will take the time to focus their life, figure out what their life is about, and start to move towards that. That's what this is a significant step towards today. If you will take what we review today in this time together seriously, I'm telling you, you will take a very significant step towards getting your life into focus, right? And just as people don't live their life in focus, very few couples, very few that I know of, live their marriage in focus. All they're in conflict. They're doing the busy stuff of living life, but they never stop and think about, why has God put us together? What does He want us to accomplish? How are we going to move forward and do that? You know, and man, if there's one thing, if you're here with a spouse, or if you have a husband or wife that you're committed to and you're going to spend your life with, at some point in time, you've got to have the conversations to start to really bring focus to your marriage as well too. Because if you figure that out, come on, the Bible says if two agree, it shall be done. It is hard to get your spouse to agree with you sometimes, right? But if you can start to agree together, I'm telling you, there is nothing that can hold you back. I've seen that happen in marriages, and this isn't a marriage class, but I'll digress for a moment. I've seen that happen in marriages my whole life. The difference between marriages of couples that have really focused in and gotten a vision for their marriage and those that are just existing together. There's a really big difference. So we were living our lives out of focus, and the goal of our time together today is to live our life in focus, to start to live it in focus. So this is not a time management seminar. As a matter of fact, I'm going to give you very few time management principles. I'm not going to get into the details of how to list things out. Mary Thompson, I think, is, I say, there's Mary. She was here one of the first times, and I know I got to one part of it. She said, man, I don't need anything else to do, Pastor. That's not the goal of today's class, is to give you something else to do, to talk about how to manage your time. The goal of the class is to have you take a step back, and look at how you're going to put your life together. So I'm going to do a little illustration for you. Some of you may have seen this demonstrated before. It's not a magic trick or anything, so there's no big aha to it. But I'm going to do a little illustration for you just to make the point. Let's say that this glass container is the time that you have, whatever segment of time you want. Let's say it's a week of time. All right, let's say that this represents, and you can't go over this, all right? You can't just keep piling things up. But I'm going to start and show you how to think about your life, okay, with this little illustration here. So I have this glass container, and then I have over here, I have these rocks that represent the things that need to fit into your life, all right? I think there's more laid out here than I can get in here, but let's see what happens. So I'm just going to begin to place these things in here. I want to get as much in as I can, right? I want to kind of manage or maximize what we're doing here, and just get as many of these rocks in here. And you guys might be more creative than I am, but I'm going to do the best I can to really get this as close to the top, kind of lay it out here, get all the important ones in here that I can, and see where this is going to leave us here. We're doing pretty good. This is holding more than I thought it would. All right. We're getting, so I said we can't go over the top there. Let's flip that one over. Let's see. I think we're okay on that one. There's one more here. Maybe, oh no, I need a thin one. Maybe that'll slide down. There's one more right there. Anybody think they can do any better? That's pretty full. We'll accept that. Pretty full life, okay? All right. You think that's full? Is that pretty full, you guys? Anybody think you could get more in? Anybody? Okay. Well, let me suggest something else to you, because I brought something else here today. So we got those big rocks in. However, I have another resource here. So, because clearly there's still space in there, right? So these are pebbles here, right? So let's, whoop. So we are able to get some more in here. Let's hope that kind of sinks down in there a little bit. Come on. See, we're getting some more down. Look at that fill right up down there, huh? Not bad. Come on. I don't know. I think that might be it. Think that's it? Anybody do any better? What do you think? There's more up here? Yeah. Eva's saying, no, you can get more in there, Pastor. Come on. All right. Some gap there. Well, let's don't give up there, though. Let's continue. Let's consider that maybe just maybe there is some more space in here. Now, I don't know, but I guess that we probably fit some of that in there. Fill up those little gaps there. How's that looking? Like some of the masonry work around your house? I don't know. I mean, I can see gaps down there, but I don't think we can get to it, all right? Any other ideas? Rick. Aha! That's why you're here, Rick. Very good, all right? Now, maybe we can get more in there. And maybe we really can. Look at that. It'll go right down there and begin to fill up those gaps. It looked full, didn't it? It really did. It's actually kind of moving some of the sand down there as we go too. Man, it might take all this water. Whoop. Spilling a little bit there. This is the one. I don't know if you guys have a gap on this side. Yeah, there's still some gaps there. Can you see it? Kind of gross. Wow. So it would take, it's going to take a little bit of time here, but we can keep going here. So if this is all the time we have, it looks like we're finally going to fill up pretty much all of it, correct? That's going to be pretty close. Pretty good call there. Look at that. I'm impressed. Last time this didn't work as good. Oh my gosh, right to the top. That's full. Are you with me? So here's what I want to ask you. What do you learn from watching that exhibition? What do you learn? Somebody tell me what you learn. What's that? Bob, very, very good. So there's no need for anybody else to answer now. When you look at that, the typical response is that you can always put something else in. You can always squeeze more in, right? They look like, because we thought we were full initially. That's absolutely true in some ways. But that's not what this is about. That's not what your life is about. It's not about always just squeezing more things. The most important lesson from this illustration is this, that if I hadn't started with the big rocks, they would have never gotten in. They would have never been there. Are you with me? Because if I had started with the sand, with the pebbles, with a pitcher of water, the big ones would have never gotten in. And so when you think about your life, and we think about our time and how we're going to live our lives, the most important thing to live in a life that's purposeful and strategic is figuring out what these are and putting them in your life first. Because otherwise, guess what? Your life will fill up with something. Right? We all know that. It's going to fill up with something. And we want to make sure that we fill it up with the right things. Are you with me? Right? So you got to get the big rocks in first. So let's pick it up in the middle page here. Let's start with, as believers, as people that are following the Word of God, followers of Jesus, as believers, we want to live according to God's ways, right? One of the commitments we have at the church is that we want to have everything that we teach in the church grounded and based in biblical reality. So we're going to start there this morning. Now I'm going to say some things from the Word of God that might hit you kind of dead on. They might even cause you pause a little bit. First of all, there is no condemnation, but there is vision and future. So if some of these Bible passages come across as a little bit like, well, you just don't know my situation, Pastor. Hey, God knows. The Word of God is true, and this is the direction we're going. None of us completely fill the vision of the Word of God. There's space for all of us, all right? So I just kind of give you a little warning there that a couple of these things might be a little bit hard to hear. Biblical realities. God's ways are always better. Once you become convinced that God's ways, Bible ways, are better, you're connected to the flow of life and love that the Word promises, and it is game on. The Bible is clear that God and His ways are timeless. God is above and beyond time, and His principles are not affected by culture, regardless of how enlightened. The Lord did not suddenly realize that as the 21st century panicked slightly and decided to rethink the Ten Commandments. Yes? I mean, either the principles of the Word are true or they're not. If they were written for only people of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,000 years ago and have no application to us today, then what the Bible claims about itself is just, it's no better than a fairy tale. But if what the Bible claims about itself is true, then we should listen to it and organize our life around what the Bible says. Malachi 3:6 says, "For I am the Lord, I do not change." Hebrews 13:8 says, "Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and ever." These two verses combine to crush any accusation that God's Word or His ways are anything but ageless. Anything but ageless. We reject at the cause any notion that God is evolving. There are even schools of Christian persuasion. There's a theology that God is evolving, that He's growing. That's not what the Word of God says. The Bible says He's complete. He doesn't change. He never has changed, okay? So the bottom line is this. When your way of living, listen, when your way of living does not line up with God's ways, guess what needs to change? Anybody? Come on. And this is if you want to really live a biblically based life, and if it doesn't line up with what God says, then guess what needs to change? Because He's not going to change. So the following are non-negotiable biblical realities. Non-negotiable biblical realities. Okay, here's the first one. If you are able-bodied, work is not optional, it's expected. You must make a living. Let's read that passage. 2 Thessalonians 3, 10 through 12. For even when we were with you, we commanded you this, if anyone will not work, neither shall he eat. Said, if anyone says will not work, doesn't say cannot work, says will not work, neither shall he eat. For we hear that there are some who walk among you in a disorderly manner, not working at all, but are busybodies. Now those who are such, we command and exhort through our Lord Jesus Christ, that they work in quietness and eat their own bread. Even in difficult financial times, and as tough as times might be today, they're not near as tough as they are across most of the rest of the world. Very few of us are genuinely concerned about what we're going to eat today. You know, and a lot of the world is, right? So the truth of the matter is this, is that even in very difficult times, the priority of the Word of God is this, that we're not to live our life in such a way that we just kind of meander around and let everybody take care of stuff. That's not the way. If you're able, you should work, all right? Now, we should have both church and governmental systems that help those who aren't, okay? So don't take on any condemnation, but if you need some thoughts about this, then do this. Let me say one thing. The way that men are wired, basically, most men need to work. They need to have a job because it's how they think about themselves. And I'd say to this to you guys, I mean, we all want a six-figure job, or we all think we should step into some place and immediately be at $50,000. And if you're making, you know, $36,000 on unemployment or something, it's kind of like, well, why should I take less? Let me suggest something to you. I think both biblically and for your own soul, I think it's better to just work and go and do something. First of all, because in most places where you work, if you're faithful, if you show up, if you produce, if you work as unto the Lord, guess what? You're not going to stay where you started. You know? So my suggestion, first of all, is if you're able, first of all, you should work, and it's better for you to work. Okay, so that's a biblical reality, all right? Let's talk about this next reality. Your first ministry is to your family, taking care of the needs of the home. What's 1 Timothy 5:8? But if anyone does not provide for his own, especially for those of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Now, I touched on priorities briefly in our message this past week, and you're going to be looking at them really closely as well today. Our first priority is to God, right? And we heard that passage in Luke chapter 14. Jesus said, if you don't hate your mother, your brother, your husband, your wife, your son, your daughter, you can't love me. Well, Jesus was speaking in extreme. He's talking about the fact that I need to be such a priority in your life that I'm truly number one. But right behind that, biblically, is your family and taking care and responding to their needs, whatever expression that takes. And in today's economy, by the way, for some of you gals or men that have the opportunity to be at home and take care of family, the value of being at home is easily calculated, all right? That is equally taking care of your family. Now, not taking care of your family is just dinking out and not being available and not doing anything. That's not taking care of your family. Are you with me? You guys okay? Guys and gals okay? Let's press on. Whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord. Colossians 3:23. Next one. Hard work honors the Lord, and the Lord honors hard work. What do you mean, Pastor? Well, here, Proverbs 13:4. The soul of a lazy man desires, has nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made rich. Proverbs 21:5. The plans of the diligent lead surely to plenty, but those of everyone who is hasty surely to poverty. Listen, we just need to get to work, not be lazy, suit up, show up, be faithful, and start to produce. By the way, the Bible says 6 days shalt thou labor, the 7th day you should rest. We get ticked off if we got to work 40 hours. What? Somebody asked me to work 40 hours? How'd you expect me to work 40 hours? What am I going to, where's my free time? Where's my time? Listen, there's a brokenness in that. There's a selfishness and a brokenness in that is really not good for you. Now, I'm not talking about the fact that if you are financially independent and secure, but your life ought to be productive way more than it's not productive. See, we tend to do this. We tend to work at play and play at our work. That's the American dream this day, and that is not the God dream. The God dream isn't that you become an outstanding recreational person. That's not any sign of holiness. The God dream is that you live with purpose and strategy in your life. But man, if we're not getting our fair amount of time off, we are ticked off about it. And I'm not talking about being a workaholic. I don't mean that. I just mean that hard work honors the Lord, and the Lord honors hard work. That's called the Protestant work ethic. That's what this country was founded on. Come on, the founders of this country get knocked all the time. But the character qualities of the early founders of this country are so unbelievable, and the country was founded on this, that there was a value to working hard. Somehow when we're working hard, we feel like we're being treated like a slave. We feel like we're doing something that we're not. That's absolutely not the case. And you start to get a vision for your life. You start to see your life become more productive and more fulfilling. There's nothing wrong with hard work. I watched my father for decades get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. Not that I was up, but I knew he was up at 5 o'clock. You know, get out there, get in his car, stop by Winchell's. Come on, somebody remember Winchell's Donuts? You know, stop by Winchell's. I know by the time I was 9 years old, or 8 years old, I was riding in with them on Saturdays and helping. To the service station, and at 6, he would do that sometimes 7 days a week, for sure 6 days a week, and many, many days he wouldn't get home till 7 or 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock at night. And when possible, we'd wait till he got home to have dinner, all right? My dad was never grumpy. It was his own business. It's what he wanted to do, and never made a lot of money. You know, ended up being well. God provided for him, you know, tremendously. It was a real blessing how God took care of my dad and his mom over their lifetime. But hard work does honor the Lord, right? So don't be so resistant about the fact that you're working hard. Are you there? Yep? Okay. Let's go to another one. Embrace the Sabbath principle. Now you say, Pastor, this sounds like a reversal of what you just said. It's not. It's the completion. One day each week is for rest and celebrating the Lord's goodness to us, and you cannot separate those two. A true Sabbath rest does not ignore the Lord. He does not ignore the Lord. Okay, now for most of you, it's typically going to be probably a Sunday, because not too many people work on Sunday. So you come to church on Sunday, you're in God's presence, and then you watch football games or sports or go out and do your events or something like that. That really is kind of a Sabbath day. But for people in ministry, it can't be a Sunday. Matter of fact, my busiest, my most intense, my most exhausting day is everybody else's Sabbath day. So on my Sabbath day, which is usually a Monday, there needs to be some expression of me entering to God's presence, because that's what the Sabbath is about, right? No one can or should work 24/7. Even God rested from all His creative acts. Now, God was not tired. There's no lack in God. He just rested. He wanted to set the example for us. He wanted to enjoy what had happened. And the Bible says that He rested. Exodus 28-10. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor, do all your work. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord your God. In it you shall do no work. Mark 2:27, Jesus said, Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath. By the way, that little, the reason that verse is in there is this. It's the Sabbath principle, not necessarily the seventh day of the week that is important. There's a whole denomination in Christianity called Seventh-day Adventists that have taken this one concept to an extreme, from my perspective, so that that their day, Saturday, is the day where that is their Sabbath day, and they've kind of built their whole theology around that one principle there. But Jesus, I think, demolished that as an extreme thrust when he said, look, man was not made for the Sabbath was made for man. That seventh day was made for you. Why? Because you're supposed to recreate. Recreation is recreation. Yes? Are you with me? So that's what it's about. It's about renewing yourself. Hey, you can pull 24/7 for a while. We've all done it. I've done it. You guys have done it. But you can't do it for very long. When I was a senior in college, I'll tell you what I was doing. When my last semester of college, here's what I was doing. I was carrying 17 units to graduate. I was the captain of the baseball team. I was engaged. I was running 2 youth ministries, one at a church and one at a campus, and getting ready to get married. I had a headache for 5 straight months, all right? Because why? Because I realized violating the Sabbath principle I was kind of overdoing. So you can do 24/7 for a while. Sometimes you have to. God's not going to be like, oh man, I'm not going to bless you because you're working extra hard right now to meet a deadline. But you can't do it your entire life. Some of you guys that are truly workaholics, you need to turn it off. Are you with me? Good? All right. You guys are awfully quiet, which makes me a little nervous. All right, let's go to the next page. Make God your first choice, not your last desperate plea. We talked about that, Matthew 6:33, seek first His kingdom. Here, let's go to another biblical principle. Life has no guarantees, so make good use of the time you have. Make good use of the time you have. There's no guarantees. Hey, listen, the promise of the Word is that we would all live 120 years. That's what was given to man. After the flood, what was given to man, the number of days would be 120 years. Frankly, I see some people that have reached past 100. I don't want to look that way. I don't want to live that long. However, if God wants me to, I will. So in an ideal world, I think if you're talking about what does God want from me, that's what you believe for in your life. But it also says there's no guarantees. So what are you waiting for? You know, you're waiting until things get better? Man, if God's told you to go back to school, don't wait another day. Go get the applications, start taking a class. You know, if God's told you to write a book, start writing. What are you waiting for? There's no guarantees in life, right? So make good use of the time you have. Psalms 90 verse 12 says this, so teach us to number our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Colossians 4:5, walk in wisdom toward those who are outside, redeeming the time. Psalms 39, 4 and 5. Lord, make me to know my end and to measure and what is the measure of my days, that I may know how frail I am. Indeed, you have made my days as handbreadths, and my age is as nothing before you. Certainly every man at his best state is but a vapor, Selah. All right? And then finally, understand the seasons of life and what the times call for. So when you think about your life, all right, you need to realize that there's no guarantees. You need to be in the moment. Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. Today has enough troubles of its own. Be in the moment. But that being said, there is a reason and a strategy to plan your life, to think about it in a long-range plan. So let's press on here and move into this next phrase. I spent all this time talking about biblical realities because I can't get to anything, nothing else matters if you won't deal honestly with these biblical realities. I can't talk to you about managing your time if you're gonna say, well, I'm gonna have my regular career, and then I'm going to start a business. I'm going to take my 3 other days a week. You know, if you work 4 10s, I'm going to take my 3 other days a week and work my business, and that's what I'm going to do because my primary goal is to save as much money or make as much money as I can. That's violating a biblical reality that God wants one day for rest. Yeah? And on the other hand, you can't just sit back and think, well, I sure hope my parents hurry up and die because I'm running out of money and they got my inheritance. Hey, there's no guarantee. The economy could change tomorrow, and every single asset that we have saved could be worthless, right? So you can't count on that either, yes? So you can't violate biblical reality. So let's move into this next phase here. This is going to get increasingly practical for you guys today. Spend about a half an hour talking about a biblical theological basis for your life, because that's the basis for everything that we do. But let's start to get increasingly practical. Here we go. A sound and principled approach to your life is not rocket science. It is simple, straightforward, and based in common sense. The odd thing is that so few people ever really take the time to think this way. And the truth is that you will not make significant kingdom contribution if you violate these principles. Let's consider. Jesus has interesting things to say about managing projects with purpose and intent. He talked about counting the cost. He told his mother that his time had not yet come when she requested his help at a wedding in Cana. He strategically planned the impact of God's purposes in his life, including an awareness of his march towards the cross about 6 months before it was to occur. And he encouraged his followers about the times that were to come after his departure. The point is, Jesus, the living Word, was strategic in every level of the plan of his life. There was nothing random about it. Are you with me? All right? So Jesus lived his life with intent and purpose. Now, in no way am I implying this about Jesus or implying this about you, that just because you're going to be strategic and purposeful, that you're going to be boring or intense, irritable. There's no reason why somehow you have to then be somber and serious, kind of like, I'm heading this way. I don't think Jesus is that way. Jesus knew what his life was about, but he was so confident and calm in that it freed him up to live life to the fullest. John 10:10 says, the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but I come to give you life and to give it to you abundantly. Jesus was everything perfect. He was perfect in one person. So just because we talk about living your life based on priorities doesn't mean you're going to be less fun. So just to make sure, smile at both people around you, because you guys look pretty serious around here this morning. Just go ahead and smile. Show them both your good teeth, all right? Let's see those teeth. Okay, if you're going to live life on purpose, then you must deal with these three aspects of priority and life management. Number one, a long-range view of your life, at least 5 years or more. A 5-year view of your life, all right? If it is said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. It is also said that most people overestimate what they can do in a short period of time and underestimate what they can do over a long period of time. To address this aspect, we will be developing a personal mission statement. We're going to give all of you PMS this morning, all right? You all get PMS. A personal mission statement. You have to know where you're going in life. You have to have some vision of what you want your life to be about. And clearly, in a 5-year segment, which is pretty easy for most of us to conceive of, you ought to think about your life as being 5 years better in every dimension of your life than you are right now. 5 years from now, you ought to be that much better. There is no doubt. Our church is 9 years old now. You know, there is no doubt that I'm a much better leader, pastor, minister in every way than we were when we started 10 years ago. And I was giving it my all then. I've never held anything back. I've given it my all the time. But I also have always realized the fact that I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep learning. I'm going to keep pressing on. I want to be a better man. I want to be a better leader. I want to be a better communicator in every way. That's having a long-range plan for your life, and we all need that. I've gotten to hang out with Pastor Jack Hayford over the last several years, and I think when I first met him, he was 75. He'll be 80 this next summer, so it's been about 5 years. But when he was 75, he was talking about what God was calling him, what God still had him. He says, as God gives me energy, he said, there's about 12 books I still want to write. One of those is on Revelation. Man, pray that he gets that done, because I have all his tapes and CDs on it, but it'd be great to have it all put together in one book. So there's things in him that give him a vision for the future. Years ago, I went with Tony and Kathy and got to hear a great entertainer, a kind of a life coach kind of guy named Art Linkletter. Anybody remember Art Linkletter? I think he was 100 years old, as I remember, when we heard him speak. 100 years old. He was still strong. I think he might have had a cane, but other than that, he walked up to the podium. I bet Dave and Mary have heard Art before too. Man, he was incredible. And he was talking about what God had called him. He said, God's called me. He said, God has called me. He said, this next season of my life, I'm going to be working with the president. I remember how long ago this was. I'm going to be working with the president. We're going to be developing programs for seniors. And he started to talk about the vision for his life. And I think he was 100 years old. That's how we need to think, right? Man, some of us are shutting it down at 58. I mean, get a clue. Tell you a quick story that has stayed with me. One of our friends, Don Eckerman, he wouldn't mind me telling the story because he shared the story at church. Don Eckerman, I would imagine, is probably 15 years older than me. So when he told this story, I think he was probably about 70, would be my guess. So yeah, so we go back about 10 years. So after the Iraq War, the one that occurred in 2003, and after that was a pretty quick war, but of course after that there was a lot of stuff that happened. Part of what the Commission of the United States, part of what they were committed to, was helping to make the Iraqis able to self-govern and law enforce themselves. So there was a lot of need, tremendous need, for American law enforcement personnel to go and train the Iraqi men how to manage their culture, their communities, right? To train them to be policemen, just to make it simple. Are you with me? So Don, and the pay for this, by the way, because it was hazard pay, and they would take, not too many people wanted to go do that at the time. Don just really felt, he said, you know something? He told his wife, said, I'm going to go do this. First of all, I needed the money, but also he really felt like, I can do this, And I think he was probably, for sure in his late 60s when he left. But there was a lot of retired and semi. One of the guys that went with him was in a senior living retirement home assisted living facilities. Another guy that was about 10 years older than he was, and he got dressed and went with him as well. Now this is the interesting part. He said, Bob, he told the church this, but I talked to him after as well. He said, I can't even tell you what a difference having purpose and a need made. He said, said it's been decades since I felt this much energy and strength and passion. He said the young Iraqi men, because of all of the war and conflict that had occurred in their nation, said there were no old men around. And he had real white hair. He had a full head of white hair, and he would walk. And he said people just walk up and he said they didn't know. They respected him. He said they couldn't have been nicer. They couldn't have learned any. Said they wanted to learn everything I had to say. The older guy that went with him, who literally was just planning his own funeral at the time, went and stayed for years. And it literally, he got his energy back. He got his passion back. These guys loved him. His wife had passed away. He had given up in life, the way Don told the story. He was just ready to kind of pack it in and, was watching whatever you watch on TV, daytime TV. That's all he was doing. And his life had meaning and purpose again. Are you with me? Man, guys and gals, man, don't start packing. I have no problem with you retiring. Retiring just ought to release you to do kingdom work. If you want to retire, great. Then start serving the kingdom, right? But don't retire. Go take your trips, get your motorhome, go places, see everything you want to see. But guess what? The planet all looks the same. You go to other countries, it looks the same, and you can't understand what they're saying. It's so frustrating. Just stay in America, go to Canada, go to Australia. There's nothing. I'm kind of being a little bit facetious, but Sherry and I ran into a really, really wealthy woman when we were on our Israel trip years ago. She was when we went with Jack Hayford. And she was like, she wasn't flaunting it at all. You would never know. She was on a trip with her son, but as Sherry got to know her a little bit better, and she said, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Well, she was the wife of somebody that owned one of these Petco things, like Texas rich, we're talking rich. And she said, and Sherry was hearing, and she said, well, what happens next? She says, I got to fly back and meet my husband on our yacht. Or she didn't call it a yacht. She called it like a boat or something, a little boat. It was like a 150-foot yacht. And all they had done for the last 2 years is all her husband wanted to do is they just cruise from island to island. And she looked at Sherry and said, you know something? She said, if I see one more gorgeous tropical island beach inlet, said I'm going to throw up. Said, because they all look the same. What she want to do? She want to be home with her grandkids. I just want to be home. Now, my husband wants to be out. I don't know why. All he wants to be is out on this boat, and I love him. I know God's calling me to say, but I just want to be home with my grandkids. So, and that's a purpose and that's a destiny, right? Are you with me? Yes? So, got to have a long-range view for your life. Beyond that, you got to have a mid-range view, somewhere between a few months and a few years, depending on the nature and season of life you're in. This is where you work on course correction, reevaluation, refocusing your efforts. To address this season of life, we'll work through an exercise called Focusing Your Life, which is why I told you the story about the projector a few moments ago. And a short-range view, weekly and then daily management. The secret to a well-lived life is a well-lived day. In this area, we'll be dealing with time management principles. Not excessively, but we'll talk about some of the ones that I think are important. All right, so the first thing we're going to move into now, this becomes, you're going to, in just a moment, you're going to be working through a little exercise, all right? So, this is developing a long-range view for your life. Now, when you first start into this, it's not going to feel like this is what's happening, but it will happen, all right? And you'll see this as we work our way through this. Developing your personal mission statement. What good is it to spend tremendous effort on a project only to realize it is the wrong one? Why climb the ladder of success, reach the top, and become aware that it was leaning against the wrong wall? Empty victories and vacant successes are almost as discouraging as failure. Avoiding this disheartening experience requires that you begin with the end in mind. This concept involves starting with an image, picture, or paradigm of the finish. The end then becomes the criteria by which everything else is examined. I want to do kind of a quick survey. How many of you genuinely feel like you can see something when it's not there? You can see what it's going to look like. I mean, you feel like, yeah, I can do that. You can feel that. How many of you kind of like say, man, people talk about stuff, and if I can't touch it, I can't see it. I mean, honestly, you can't see it. Sherry and I are kind of different to that. Sherry cannot envision things. When she sees something that she likes, I mean, bam, she knows, oh yeah, I like that. By the way, she has expensive taste. Which we tease about, I like that. Yeah, well, probably everybody does, But I can see things. Like when we did a little house addition, I literally could see it in my mind before we even talked to an architect. So an architect's job, by the way, is to take your words or to ask you enough questions to then put together a picture and to start to dial in so that if you can't see it, he can show you a picture and say, oh, this is what it's going to look like. So what we're going to do in just a moment is you're going to be actually developing a picture of what you want your life to look about. That's beginning with the end in mind. Because if you don't know where you're going, any road's going to take you. You're going to end up anywhere. But once you get a vision of what you want to accomplish, say, that's what I want, then you start to head towards that. That's called a personal mission statement. Jesus lived with this approach, begin with the end in mind completely. In declaring the commitment to his journey and calling, he said about his impending death, but for this cause I came to this hour, John 12:27. His entire life was encapsulated in the awareness that his cause was to sacrifice himself for all mankind. Christ was resolute and clear. His face was set on Jerusalem, the cross, the defeat of Satan, and his resurrection. He knew the course he was on because he knew how it ended. Each step or decision was determined by the goal. When you get a clear picture of the end, the rest comes relatively easy. Architects listen to word pictures, ideas, or dreams and translate those into completed images. This is done prior to one set of mechanical drawings or engineering calculations. Likewise, the picture of your great adventure begins with a clear image of what the finish line looks like. You cannot lead yourself if you do not know where you're going. Here's the exercise. Here we go. Imagine that you have been suddenly fast-forwarded to the end of your life and are sitting comfortably with your loved ones, friends, co-workers, and acquaintances. Even people that have already died are there. This is your imagination, all right? Everybody is gathered for one reason, to pay tribute to you. And somebody says, it's about time, right? They're going to pay tribute to you. There is a program with 6 featured speakers representing different people from your life. First, Jesus is going to talk about your life. One speaker is from your family, another from your work or business, another person to share is one of your best friends, the 5th is from your church, the last is from the community and volunteered in activities with you. This exercise involves you imagining what each person would say at your tribute. You may write as little or as much as you desire. Now, before you start doing this, let me talk you through this a little bit more. Before you begin, formulate what you would really like to hear them say about you and your life. What kind of family person, friend, or associate were you? What character traits would you like them to have seen in you? What contributions or achievements would you like them to recall? What difference would you like to have made in their lives? Now, this exercise, the way that I've come about this is that literally what I'm teaching today cost me thousands of dollars, all right? It really comes from Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People workshop that I took in 92, so it's quite a while ago now. It was by far the best thing I've ever done in my life that wasn't a spiritual thing, by far. The way that we did it with Covey, by the way, is you were watching your funeral. That was a little too morbid for me, so I just go, let's just make it a tribute to your life and you get to be there, right? Come on, so, but here's what I want you to do. Now, the categories that I've selected here, I don't want you to feel restricted or constrained by, all right? You can use whatever you want. If you want to have people all from your family say things about you, but I would like you to think about the different areas of your life, and if somebody was going to comment about that, what would you like them to say? Not what you think they would really say. What would you like them to say? Like if you know, frankly, that you've been a little bit grumpy and that you're hard to get along with, and you think, man, if my wife got the shot, she'd say, man, is the most difficult husband on the planet. If that's what she'd really say, don't write that. I want you to write what you would like her to say about you. All right? By the way, while you're doing that, I'll just tell you a quick joke, only because I happen to think about it. There were twin brothers that that lived in a little town in the Midwest. And they ended up being very wealthy men, and basically ended up owning the town, but they were stinkers. They were not the sort of people that anybody liked. Matter of fact, nobody liked them. Well, as time went on and they got older, they didn't become any more popular anyway. People resented them even greater. And finally, one of them died. So the older brother the remaining brother took all of his took their money, and was just going to get the very best funeral he could ever get. So he got the best funeral arrangements, the nicest plot. All he needed left was a minister to do the ceremony and to say some really great things about his brother. So he made an appointment with the local pastor. He walked into the pastor's office, said, Pastor, he said, as you probably know, my twin brother's passed away. I would like you to do the funeral for him, and I'm going to give you $1 million if you'll do his funeral. But I want you to say one thing. I want you to tell them what an angel that my brother was. So the pastor sat there for a second. He contemplated it. He said, I'll do it. He took the money. So at the funeral service, the minister got up when it was finally his part to talk about the man who had passed. The brother was sitting there, and he had the look in his eyes kind of like, you better say the right things. The pastor stepped up and he said, we know that this dear departed, we know he was a scoundrel, he was a womanizer, he had no friends, he was somebody that took advantage of every situation that he could, but compared to his brother, he was an angel. That was free. Okay, so I'm going to give you about 10 minutes now. I don't want you to leave. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. I just want you to sit here, and and I want you to think about what you would like. What do you want the Lord to say about you, about your life? What do you want a family member? Who is that family member? What would you like them to say about you? It might be a son, daughter, might be mom, dad. Even if they passed on, go ahead. What would you like them to have said about you? What about your friends? What kind of friend have you been? What would you like to say about that? Somebody at work or school, somebody from your church or community. Now listen, if community doesn't fit for you, say, nobody in the community knows me, just make up somebody else, all right? Do you need any more information from me to start on this? You want to ask me any questions? You can write phrase, you can write sentences, you can use more space. I would probably just write some short phrases so you don't get hung up. This is for you. It's staying in your book. It's not going to anybody else. It's an initial worksheet. And we're going to do something in 10 minutes that literally took me about 2 days to work on. But I just want you to start on this process because it'll help you with your long-range view. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, let's put on some romantic music and get at it. Look at your life, long range. Some of you can't make yourself do it. I'm telling you, that's a resistance point. It's really unfortunate. I'm not criticizing or judging. I just know it's a fact. It happens every single time. You know, it's like anything we do. Some people, you just can't make yourself engage. It's the same reason why you couldn't give yourself all out at when you try something. The same reason you can't go all out at the job. The same you can't put yourself out there. I'm telling you, that's a devastating, resistant point in your life. The enemy has you blocked. Because if you're not controlling it, you're not going to do it. And until you release and trust Him, it'll always resist for you. So no matter how much time I gave you, some of you aren't going to do it, no matter what, because of whatever resistance points in your life. You know, I know because I'm a little bit that way. It's kind of, no, I'm not going to do this. I tend to be that way. But you have to make yourself do things sometimes you don't want to do. And then for others of you, I could give you all the time in the world, you'd still be on the first one. You'd be talking about what the Lord and how you're feeling. So, but that said, this has just been, actually it's been less than 10 minutes. With that said, some of you have just written in a lot of stuff. I thought I'd give you the opportunity for a few of you to share some of what you've written there, and none of you have to share anything at all. Matter of fact, let's do this first, all right? Turn to the person next to you and just pick, whoa, that's going to go run off. Turn to the person next to you, just pick one thing and just turn and share. Take not more than 1 minute each, okay? Just turn and pick, say, this is what I'd like so-and-so to say. Take 1 minute. Okay, let me just for example, I appreciate you guys engaging in that so much. Let me just give you a couple of you the opportunity to share maybe just a couple thoughts that you're working through, a couple things that are on your heart that you would like your life to be about. You'd like somebody to say about you. So just raise your hand, whoever would like to volunteer, and do that. We need some volunteers. Come on, don't be too shy. I'm either volunteer or I'm going to pick you out. All right. Here's Mary. All right. You're going to work on the. Here we go, Mary. We're just one. Just share one. You say who it was, what you'd like them to say.
I think at work, I would say that Mary was a good leader. She inspired and managed well. She cared deeply about her employees and clients, and her relationships were paramount.
Very good. Okay. Somebody else. One. Just pick one out. Here you go. Faraz.
He was a great servant. He fulfilled his duties. He worked very hard to please everyone around him and didn't forget me.
Wonderful. Good. Somebody else. Who else had a hand up? Saw another hand go up. Pete.
The one under God. He laughs with me. He cried with me. He gets angry with me.
This is from the Lord? Wow. You got a pretty honest relationship with the Lord. Somebody else. Yes. Very good.
For community and recreation, confidence is something you create within yourself by believing in who you are.
Who in particular would you want to say that?
I'm
about actually, you. Who would you want to be speaking?
Well, I'm involved with the Choices program, and I'm a business mentor.
But who would be, what person?
Probably my mentees that I've had throughout the last 3 years.
Pick one.
Caitlin. Who's
there you go. Write her name down there. Write Caitlin. Write her name.
Okay.
All right. And what do you want Caitlin to say? Say it one more time.
Confidence is something you create within yourself by believing in who you are every day.
Very good. Very nice. Good. Somebody else. See, the reason I want to personalize is if you don't personalize it, it's going to be a thought. So when I think about this, when I did that, what I did is I literally thought about my sons, thought about my daughter, I thought about my wife, I thought about my co-workers by name, thought about what do I want Kelly to have said about me. That was important to me. Are you there? And that's where you start to decide what sort of man you want to be. Anais, or woman.
I only got through one.
That's fine. One's great.
Okay. So this is Jesus talking. Well done, beloved. I so cherished our relationship, so much so that I can't wait to spend all of eternity with you. You answered my call. You lived in the fullness of all that I have for you. You yielded to my spirit and obeyed, and together we had the most incredible adventure. We brought heaven on earth, beloved. My dream came true. You understood the Father's heart and understood the authority I gave you. The Holy Spirit moved in and through you all over the world.
Wow, wow. Top that one, huh? Beautiful. One more person. Somebody else want to just share. We'll go Jerry. Jerry, I'm coming. Yes, you do. Here you go. Take it. Here it comes. Catch it, brother. There you go. Oh, you dropped it. I shouldn't have thrown it. It's only
I did that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead.
Family members, I wondered where he was always going all the time.
Say what?
I wondered where he was going all the time.
Oh, man, that's a great vision. There you go. All right. Somebody else. One more. There you go, Bob.
It's from the Lord, and it says, I know that he loves me and I love him, but I think we struggle with our relationship.
Okay. Okay. All right. Part as you guys work through this, again, let me say this to you. I'm not just looking for honesty about what he would say. This is how it really, I'm looking about what do you want to be? Does that make sense? So a couple of you guys gave some really honest comments about if it's really a tribute to me. This is your chance to decide what you want people to say about you, because you deserve to have them say that about you, even the Lord. You know, you don't want to get to the end of your life expecting the Lord to say, well done, good and faithful servant, instead of just saying, well, you're done. You know, so, and that's the difference between living strategically and purposefully. So as you guys think through this, that's why it takes some time to do this. Now, literally, this is a multiple day process. It really is. But it's something that if you will start to think about, you can decide what you want your life to be about. Now, as we go, you can turn to the next page here. Let me work through this with you, because I'm going to share with you a portion of my PMS. All right? If you invested yourself in the exercise, you have taken a significant step toward discovering your unique destiny. You can be busy your whole life, but if at the end it adds up to bricks and sticks and stuff, you'll probably be severely disappointed. On the other hand, if you're energetic and focused on the grander issues of life, you'll get to the end in here, well done, good and faithful servant, instead of, well, you're done. So here's a significant portion of my personal mission statement, all right? This came out of the sort of exercise that I'm talking to you about. And this becomes the guiding declaration of my life. This is how valuable it can be. This is my long-range guiding declaration. It eliminates things. It includes things. There are some things that are just flat out not options for me, because I've decided. Now, I was about 34 years old when I worked through this, which is that right? Whatever. I guess that's about right. Yeah, about 34 years old when I worked. And it was a great time of life to work through this in your early 30s. Here's my philosophy about seasons of life, by the way. You want to hear it? In your teenage years, most people are just kind of looking to kind of survive the years, because everybody talks about how hard it was. I survived, I'm not this, I'm not that, I didn't do this or that. And you get into your 20s, the 20s are the years I think are the most dramatic and most significant change. Nobody talks about this. The 20s are very, very significant in terms. And then what happens is when you step into your 30s, you've made the decision in your 20s. You started to make changes and adjustments. You started to live the life, so to speak, that you're going to live. I'm going to live this way because I'm going to be this. I don't care what anybody else says. It's my life. And in the 30s, you start to end up with the choices you made in the 20s. And it's a great time of life to look at, is that really what you want? I can't tell you how many people that get into their 30s, and what happens is that the pain, the unconscious pain, because life has, you have forces that are coming from outside your life, and you have unconscious forces that are coming from underneath. They're constantly bombarding how you manage. This is how you manage your life. This is who you are. And whatever's underneath, whatever is unresolved, whatever is painful, whatever forces there are unresolved in your life, they keep bouncing off this sense of who you are. And then eventually they keep bouncing. And in your 30s, what happens? It happens to a lot of people. It crashes through, and all of a sudden you realize, I'm depressed. Or I have no faith. I was just pretending. And so what happens is in your 30s, you can get broken really fast. I mean, you can look glorious through your 20s. You can make it through your teens and be a star. But you get into your 30s, you're going to start to be exactly with what you've decided previously in your life. So in my 30s, I was really glad, because I had several opportunities to go really different ways in my life, including leaving Sherry. Are you with me? All right? So as I worked, which meant leaving my family, and as my therapist told me, I don't think I've rarely said this, my therapist told me, and she was right, she said, Bob, if you do that, you'll disappear. Said you said you'll never be Bob Reeve again. Now, what she didn't mean, you know what I mean. She meant that what made me me would be gone. Are you there? What makes me the person that that seems to have some value is all wrapped up in that. But it's my life. I'm going to do what I want to do. I deserve it. You can always find people that are going to support whatever you want to do. You can always find that. Or you can listen to God. Are you there? Because God's plans are always better. It's a hard one. I mean, I say it a lot where it probably sounds trite to you guys. I do not mean it in a superficial way at all. His plans are always better. Always better in the long run. There's no short-range plan, jump the ship, get on board, get another lover. There's none of that that's as good as God's plans. I don't know, but you don't know what you're right, I don't know. God knows. Ask Him. I'm not going to do that. I don't even like that. There's stuff in the Bible I don't believe. What about this? What about these issues? So that's how I think about it. So that's why this becomes so important. So out of that comes my mission statement, which is very important to me. I am first and foremost a Christian. All that I say or do in public or private reflects Christ's priorities in my life. So this is true north for me. Your personal mission statement gives you true north for your life. Do you know what true north is? I don't know if I can explain this. I mean, I understand the concept. I don't know if I can explain it very well. Here's my understanding, is that there is a magnetic pull in the rotation of the earth. And the magnetic pull goes to dead north. That's why compasses work. That's why compasses work. And true north, when it's operating off of a compass, you will always know true north. So you decide directions based not on east and west or south. You decide direction based on what north is. Say, well, if that's north, then I know I can walk this way. And I'm going this far west, or this far northwest, or this far southeast. Based on what? Based on true north. Yes? Am I saying this? Anybody know if I'm saying this anywhere close to right? Okay. You have to decide true north for your life. Say, well, I'm a Christian. Doesn't that settle it? Of course. But not if you're really not unless you're really committed to it. So I'm not telling you what true north is for you. I'm just telling you need to figure out what it is. All right, so this is true north for me. I am first and foremost a Christian. All that I say or do in public or private reflects Christ's priorities in my life. Now say, now Pastor Bob, man, that's so awesome, man. I'm so glad you're my pastor. I do not do this all the time, but what does it do for me? It always brings me back to, I always have something to evaluate it against. So I'm not evaluating my choices or decisions based on culture, based on friendships, based on moments, based on emotions, based on frustrations, based on achievements. I'm evaluating my life based on I'm a Christian. I might tell this story tomorrow, but this is kind of a good illustration. I was getting my hair cut, and I go to a salon. So there's all different types. I don't just go to a barber shop where it's basically just men. I go to salons. So there's usually women around there, and I don't talk much, but you can listen to some interesting conversations. I'm convinced that's why women go to salons, is just to listen to the gossip, And so I heard this I was overhearing. It's kind of an interesting comment. She said, she said, I wish I was at the park right now. And the gal with her, I don't know who was saying what. I don't know if it was the hairstylist, because they were getting her hair washed, which I love that about salons. I could just stay there all day long and wash it some more, But anyway, so I don't know who was talking, because my eyes were closed, and she said, I wish I was at the park right now. The other gal says, well, how come? She says, because I just got a text from my daughter that one of the guys, the guy that stole my son's watch a couple years ago, is there wearing his watch. And if I was I always said that if I ever see him wearing that watch, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to tear that watch right off his arm. That was their conversation. Nobody else said anything. And I was sitting there thinking, I said, I understand that. I understand that frustration. But then I just preached this week on what it means to really follow the Lord. And I almost said, but I didn't feel like, I wasn't a part of the conversation. But I almost said this. I said, if you want to really do something amazing, why don't you go buy another watch, take it to him, say, I know you love watches. This is my gift to you. Are you with me? Now that's what it says. Hey, if somebody asks for you to go a mile, go with them too. That's really what that means. Are you there? Are you with me? That's what it means to be a Christian. Why? Because we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. And if you want to do damage to the prince of darkness, shock him. Because you're not wrestling against people. You're bringing kingdom realities to bear in different... So that's what it means to be a Christian, a Christ follower. Are you with me? That's why this is super important to me. The first priority of my life, the biggest decision I ever made, was to choose to be a Christ follower. Are you there? Because of that, everything else starts to take line. I'm first and foremost a Christian. All that I say or do in public or private reflects Christ's priorities in my life. I am the husband of Sherry. My primary mission is to love her, cherish her, and support her pursuit of her God-given destiny. I am the father of John and Jenny, Joshua and Elizabeth and Shannon. I willingly choose to prioritize my life around their needs and development and support them in their pursuit of their God-given destinies. Now that may not work for you. These may not be issues in your life, but for me that's important. Say, well, that's easy, Pastor, they're serving with you. Well, I think one of the reasons they serve with us, and if you know my family, this isn't, what's the word when family all works together? What's that? This isn't nepotism here. This is the anointing of the Levitical priesthood, which was all family kind of stuff. And if you know my family, they're great, great sons and daughters. They're unbelievable. And I think part of the reason it works is because it's a God calling in my life to invest into their life, even though it looks completely opposite. And I think from their perspective, they're supporting, loving mom and dad, being with them, helping them build the church. But it works both ways. Are you there? Why? Because there's a God anointing on it. Are you there? Okay, I am the grandpa of Neve and Asher, Cohen and Arabella. I will do anything and everything in my power to ensure they understand the godly heritage they have been born into and to make a personal decision to embrace godly biblical values and meet the Savior personally. Now, you cannot make that happen. I cannot make that happen. But I can use every bit of influence I have in my life to create an environment where they will want to give themselves to the Lord. And I'm doing that. I'm going to do that. Period. I can't make the decision for them. I would never force it on them. Because it has to, but I'll tell you, I'm not about to just say, well, you go ahead and go make your own decision. They have plenty of time to research things. I'm going to tell them, say, look, God's ways are always better. They're always better. Asher, let me tell you why. This is so much better. You can do it other ways. People say you don't want to do that. You want to follow God. Why? Because the Bible says, train up a child in the way he should go. When he's old, he shall not depart from it. That's what the Bible says. Does that mean that they won't depart from it? No, it just means that you train them up, and ultimately they'll come back to it. How many of you guys wandered away and then finally came back to the Lord because somebody, come on, just raise your hand and be honest here. I know it's probably most of you, right? Why? Because we get independent. We want to do our own thing. We realize, well, that pretty much isn't what I thought it was, right? So, are you there? I'm the pastor of the people of God. I succeed in helping the kingdom to grow by modeling Christ's love in action. I build people's dreams and motivate them toward a deeper pursuit of God. I'm creative, humorous, joyful, wise, and resourceful. I love to problem solve and seek the biggest challenges that life has to offer. Now, my personal mission statement isn't all exactly how I am. It's how I want to be. Frankly, I hate problems. I want everybody to be happy all the time. I want everything to be easy. I want $2 million in the bank. I don't want to ever have to take another offering. I don't like any problems. But if I'm going to lead, one of the things I know about life, you got to take problems head on. Matter of fact, most great leaders have said this throughout history. Said, I want to know bad news immediately. Good news you can tell me whenever you want. Bad news I need to know right now. Why? And that's how you have to think about things. I have to change I'm just like my mother. My mom wants everybody to be happy. Whenever anybody's in conflict, she's just, what did I do wrong? Come on. But and I'm like that. I was kind of like, I want everybody happy all the time. Sherry's not so much that way. It's kind of like, well, get over it. They'll get over it. If they got a problem, it's their problem. She's a little more cut and dry. But my nature, so I have to choose to embrace problems. Are you there? So, your personal mission statement if this is all just a plea, since you spent your time here today, write yourself a personal mission statement. Paint a picture. It doesn't have to, and it shouldn't look anything like, shouldn't sound anything like mine, shouldn't look like mine. I tend to write in real, very direct, short phrases. That's how I like to think. You might, like Anais, you might want to paint this beautiful, rich, intimate picture. That's her personality. That's how she should write. She's going to take weeks on this. I can feel it already, you know. She hadn't even scratched the surface of her and Jesus, you know, much less anybody else. And that's a beautiful way of her to be, but I tend to be more kind of bottom line that way. Are you there? Okay. So that's your personal mission statement. There's a little page here for if you want to start to work on that, you can do that. We're going to take a 5-minute stand-up stretch. I don't think there's any coffee today. But let's go ahead and let's get real practical. I'm going to give you my very best practical stuff, the things that have helped me the most in my life to achieve some level of significance and effectiveness in my life, all right? So we're going to be on this page where it says, top page says, how to focus your life, using this as kind of an acrostic or an acronym here. I forget what the right word is. And this all builds off the very opening illustration I shared with you guys about the projector out of focus. And this came right out of that for Sherry and I. It's kind of like, well, if we're going to focus our life, what does it mean to get things in focus, all right? And then, so we broke it up into 5 areas. There is nothing sacred about this. There's many different expressions of this sort of process. You may have one that works better for you. If you've never seen anything like that, like this, then this is a good process. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just saying there's nothing that's innately brilliant about it. Again, managing your life is not rocket science. It's more determination and then just being thorough in your life, okay? How do you focus your life? So the first thing, just like a projector's out of focus, that's an evaluative comment, right? You walk in and you say, that's not in focus. The same thing, if you have to be willing to look at the different areas of your life and look at them and say, that's broken, that's weak, that's a great joy. This is going good, that's not going good. You have to be willing to evaluate your life, which is not always fun because we don't like to evaluate our lives. We just like to do the same old, and kind of settle in, you know. And another thing, I don't know if I talk about this in this seminar or not. Well, maybe by the time we're done. Another thing is that you need to have somebody in your life that can help evaluate the areas of your life that you cannot see. Those are called your blind spot areas, right? We all have them, every single one. If you don't have some people in your life, usually it's called a spouse. But the truth of the matter is, it's probably, sometimes spouses get so close to you that they don't see things really clearly. You need to have somebody in your life that's willing to point out to you the things that you can't see. When I was going through this week-long process, one of the requirements of working through this process is I had to provide a subjective survey about me to 10 of my coworkers. You talk about a devastating, tense, encouraging experience. And what it did, it went into this computer analysis and it spit out, said, this is how people see you. And what you need to consider is that that's the part of yourself that you're not seeing. It's like the back of your head. You know, I mean, you did your best job to probably fix the back of your hair today, ladies, you know, and or guys too. And yet the bottom line is you don't really know what's behind you, right? And people do, but you don't. So it's really helpful if you have somebody that can talk to you, that you're willing to say, you just say, hey, you know, is there anything about my life that you think that I don't see? Are you there? So, but you have, starts with evaluation, all right? Now we've moved from a long-range vision to the short-range, kind of intermediate, year or less sort of approach to life. Are you with me? Okay. So you move to then, you move from evaluating your life, then the next thing is you're going to set your goal. Once you know where you're really at, then you can say, this is where I want to be. If you get on the scale, come on, nobody really likes that, right? You know, if you get on the scale and it says 202, you can shake the scale, you can stomp on the scale, you can go buy a new scale, but it's probably going to still say 202. That's where you're at. That's one step. You don't have to be stuck there, right? So you say, where do you want to be? I want to be at 182. That's setting a goal for yourself, right? So you evaluate, you set a goal, and then the third thing you do is you make a plan to get there. Plans are in sand, the goal's in concrete. That's a good way to think about things like this. You've probably heard that before. The plan is always in sand. The plan has got to shift with whatever you're facing because you don't know what's going to come your way, you know. But the goal, ideally, is in concrete. It's kind of like, okay, this is a goal that I can achieve, and I'm going to get there, all right? Now, the focus, the idea of FOCUS, I just split up into these 5 different areas of your life. We're really not going to take time to work through these today, but while I'm talking, if you want to write down a few things on here, this is just your worksheet. I would just take this if I were you and put it onto something and really start to look at it. I think there are 5 areas of your life you want to look at. You want to look at your family, whatever that is for you. If you're married, it's your marriage, kids, and your vital relationship. You want to look at how am I doing, where am I at in these areas. Now, Sherry and I did this with our marriage. We literally sat down and we had to acknowledge the fact that we were out of focus, and we had to talk about, literally sit down and say, okay, what are you not happy about? Because you can do this when you fight. I know, Pastor, it's hard to believe Sherry and I fight. Well, it's maybe hard to believe that Sherry fights, but you can do this when you fight, but I've never solved anything in a fight. All you do is you just entrench more, you get more defensive, you know, you get hurt, all this kind of stuff. So you can try it when you fight, or you can do it by design. So you sit down, you know, you have a little, and you have a time limit. You know, if you know that you're out of focus, you have a little time limit meeting. Never have an open-ended meeting. You know, just have a time limit meeting. Say, we got a half an hour. I'd like you to talk for 10 minutes, and then I'll talk for 10 minutes. We'll have 10 minutes to discuss it. At 30 minutes, we're done. Seriously, I'm saving you thousands of dollars right now. Listen to me, please, all right? So you sit down and you talk about where are we at? Where are we at in our marriage? You know, and say, well, we need more sex, which is what almost all guys say. We need to have more sex. And the gal's saying, we need more affection. You know, we need to be more romantic. You know, well, those are all legitimate concerns and requests in a healthy relationship. So you evaluate where you're at, and then you say, well, honey, how are we going to have more intimate time together? Well, let's start with this. You're going to have to get home earlier and start helping with the kids, or you know, whatever it is. Anyways, you come up with some plan and say, we're going to plan opportunities where we can be more, we're going to plan more opportunities where we can be more affectionate. We're going to plan more opportunities where we can go do something just the two of us together. I can't tell you how many years Sherry and I have struggled over with our own date time. You know, I mean, we've tried all different things. Mondays, right now we're on Thursdays, which is working pretty good, but Sherry has Thursday morning women's Bible study, and by the time she gets out of that, she's kind of gassed, you know, and I want to go do things. All she wants to do is eat and then go home and just like chill out. She wants to kind of get out on Monday. I don't talk to nobody on Monday. Come on, Ronnie golfs with me. I'm borderline losing it most Mondays, all right? That's why I go out and golf. I figure it's better hit the ball than anything else, you know. And you know what I mean? So anyways, you get a picture of what I'm saying. You set a goal so we literally said, okay, I tell her, well, honey, I love spending time with you. Let's plan this. What time works? Well, you know, it doesn't count this. Okay, doesn't count. So we came up with Thursday afternoons about 3 o'clock. It's kind of right now, it's our time. And that seems to be working okay. The chances are at some point in time it's probably going to break. You know, we'll have to fix it. Are you with me? You know, what time's good for us time, you know? But we even talked about, you can take this, you know, where are you at with, if you have kids, where are you at with your kids? What school are they going to go to? How come you feel that way about it? What's our goal for our kids? How are we going to spend time with our kids? One of the things that Sherry and I are planning, we really want to do, is that we're at an age and of a resource to where we could take all of our family on a vacation. But we have to plan it. We have to plan it for them, and we have to plan it for us. Do you know what I mean? Why? Because it's important to us. You know, I don't know. You never know what you have, so you want to invest when you can in those kind of things. Are you with me? So you talk about where you're at with your family, where you're at with your friendships, where you're at with your roommates, where you're at with mom and dad. Talk about that, and you set a goal of where you'd like to be. Some of you are you're enmeshed with your family. You need to stop it. All right? I mean, I have family living with me right now. I mean, we've kind of been sucked into that whole realm a little bit as well, too. But that's kind of that's an enmeshment. You know, you guys that have been in therapy, you recognize that word. It's too much. And so you have to find ways to kind of separate that back out, to give yourself some space and some boundaries. That's all healthy stuff. Are you guys still okay? Am I making sense? Talk about that. You talk about the O represents others. What does your social life look like? What do you want your social life, your friendships, your relationships to look like? Hey, there's been more than one guy. He gets married. Honey, this is great. We're married. You know, I caught the woman of my dreams. And then, by the way, honey, I play softball Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I take Friday night off. And then, of course, Saturday's the all-day tournaments I play. But, honey, I love you. Come on, and you guys, maybe some of you guys have been like that. Literally, their recreational, their social life is so important to them and that's not why most gals get married, is to be a softball widow or a golf widow, or most guys don't get married to have a wife that's going to all go out hang out with their girlfriends all the time. You know, so you have to work those things out. How are others going to be involved in your life? How are others, if you're not married, how are others going to be, how important are your friendships going to be, and how are you going to build those? Hey, if you want friends, by the way, you have to be a friend. You're never going to have friends if you're not friendly. I want some really good friends. Everybody wants friends. So you just have to be friendly. And guess what? You're going to have plenty of friends. And the more friendly you are, the better and the richer those relationships will be. By the way, one of the things another thing that in my personal mission statement that you guys did not read is about friendships. Because over the years, I've had some people that have really been great friends to me, but the Lord dealt with me is that I didn't feel like I've been as good of friends to them. You know, because they'd be the ones that would call me, happy birthday, all that kind of stuff, and I felt like I wasn't the one instigating. So I've tried to become more of an instigator in terms of some of the critical friendships. And you see, because I want friends. I want somebody to at least carry my casket. And, so I don't want it rolled. I don't want it by those guys they hire, Anyway, so others. Then you go into career. Now listen, career has to do with your finances, your education, what you're planning, all those kind of things. If you're going to change careers, and if this is not working, if you need to make a change, then think about, how am I going to make a change? Make a decision that a year from now, I'm going to be here. I thought seriously about 3 years ago about doing a doctorate of ministry. I already have 2 master's degrees. I thought really seriously about doing a doctorate of ministry program, and which I have full confidence that I could do. But what I had to weigh in terms of looking at that, is that something, because is that something that I really... What's that going to do for me in the long run? It would help me be more educated in some ways, or academically. It'd give me credentials. Dr. Bob, I kind of like the sound of that. So I'm praying somebody would give me an honorary one, because I decided, anyways. But I also decided this. I decided that I liked my life and I was too busy. We're building a church here. I want to know my grandkids. I decided that at this point in time, I probably won't do that. Now, I might change my mind. I might go back and do that. I could probably do it in about 3 years. But you talk about those things. Where are you going on your career? Where are you going to spend your money? This is where you talk about those things. You think about them, right? What's your savings? If your finances are out of control, your first step would be, let's go to Financial Peace University at the church. Get there. Do the 9 weeks. It's not even 13 anymore. It's 9 weeks. Do those things and start to learn, put things into practice. The U is the U. The U in this is the only one that doesn't really fit. It's the Y-O-U. Where are you in your health? Where are you in your hobbies, your recreation, the balance in your life? What makes life work for you, right? You evaluate it, set a goal, and you make a plan. If you want to get healthier, then you say, you know what, I'm eating too much candy, too many sugars. So you say, that's where I'm at. What do I want to change? The goal would be is that I only eat ice cream 7 times a week. No, I only eat ice cream 1 time a week. So I'm going to allow myself to do that. So I'm going to eliminate ice cream from my diet because I want to be healthier. Or I'm going to add in exercise. Or I'm getting enough cardiovascular, but I'm convinced I'm not getting enough of resistance training. So I need to add that into my life. So you think about those things and then you make a plan. And then you have your plan, and the S is the spiritual area, which we talk a lot about the church. You can figure that out. And then you have a document or you have a statement, you have something that you've thought through. And if the goal, let's say it's a 1-year goal and we're in January, you could work through this right now, and then you would have something that you could look at every week and see if you're on your plan. And then you can decide if you're going to stay committed to it or not. That's how you focus your life. Got it? That's a mid-range view of your life. This is under the umbrella of the long-range view of your life. How do you get to where you want to be? It's a really, really great way to look at it. So evaluate, set a goal, make a plan. Let's say that together. Say evaluate, set a goal, make a plan. That's a great way to do it. Any thoughts, questions, or comments about that? Okay, and so there's the worksheet here, and obviously we don't have time to do that. So now I'm going to move to the short range, kind of some of the time management things. I'm not going to do very much on this, but what I'm going to give you is the very best principles and ideas that I've found in my life that make the most sense, okay? The weekly schedule, the secret to accomplishing the important things in your life, okay? When we talk about your weekly schedule, I think planning your life a day at a time is too close. Looking at your life a month at a time, for some of you might work based on the nature of your life. I think a week at a time for most people is a smart way to look at your life. Now, I'm always planning multiple weeks out. I can tell you what my immovables are for the year. The things that I know I can't, the basic ones. I can tell you what those are. But then I'm constantly going back to the week. I work my week all the time. What does my week look like? What do I have to do? Where am I going to put that? That's, where am I going to find my sermon prep time? Where is it realistically going to be? And if you go back to this, this is where this starts to get really important. If the most important thing I do as a pastor is, I think the most important thing I do is pray. The second thing, most important thing I do is I want God's priorities for our life. But probably the third most important thing that I do is preach or communicate God's word, right? That's a pretty big rock. Now, I could fill up my schedule right now with counseling appointments. I'm a good counselor, and you all are broken. Every single one of you would love to spend time with me. You would, and I would love it. I love people. I love hearing about their lives. I love seeing them move forward. However, that's not what God has called me to do. God's called me to proclaim the Word of God. I have to get this rock in my schedule, or hire somebody else to do it. Are you with me? Okay? Now listen. When you start to think about the immovables of your life, okay, we're going to look at, we'll turn and look at that page, your weekly schedule. We're not going to have time to work through it. When you start to look at the immovables of your life, you need to think about, this is why your priorities are so important. You need to think about what the rocks are, and I'm going to put those in first, because I can guarantee you other stuff's going to fill up your life. Come on, we got a whole bunch of new TV shows that just came on. They all look awesome to me. Come on, what's that one show? Oh, I just recorded it. I don't know, I record about 3 or 4 new shows. I'm going to watch the pilot, see if they're any good. You know what I mean? But they're really not that important. More likely they're just going to get dumped. They're just going to get erased. Are you there? Because otherwise, man, I like entertainment. I love TV. I love movies. I love sports, and it's all important at the time. When you're watching it, there's nothing more important than a UCLA game. Get out of the way. There's nothing more important than the Lakers. There's nothing more important than Revolution, which is such a stupid show, but it's important to me. And those things, they really aren't important. They just fill up your time. They end up becoming this stuff. And if you start with this, that's all you're going to have. I'll never have this. I'm not going to have the relationships I want to have. I'm not going to have the message I want to have. I'm not going to have the strategy. So you got to start with this, okay? So you enter the immovables. What are the immovables? Obviously work. We talked about that. Okay, that's probably the one thing you can change the least for most of us. You have to suit up and show up. Turn to the person next to you and say, suit up and show up. You have to do that, all right? So work is important. Church, I think if you love the Lord, God's family is very important. Now listen, usually there's a little bit, you kind of have, when most people want to go to church on Sunday morning, that's a fact. But the reason we have a Saturday night service is that some days you just need to take the day completely off, or you need to, go walk along the beach in the morning when it's cool and whatever, all that kind of stuff. So sometimes you need to adjust those things. Your Sabbath day needs to be in there, basically speaking. Listen, if you got to pull a 7-day week a few times, you got a big project going, we all understand that, but you can't do it forever, right? This is how this all becomes important. Are you guys tracking with me? Okay. And then even your own sleep and your rest. A few people I know can run on about 4 hours of sleep a night. There's a few that genuinely that's all they need. But most people need 7 or 8, or if you're a teenager, 13 or 14. They're kind of like vampires. They just sleep when there's daylight. You need good rest. If you want to be healthy, you really need good rest in your life. Okay. You can't just keep burning the candle at both ends. So that's important too. So you realize that there's so many hours that are going to already be cut out of your week, okay? Now, after you do that, you review your personal mission statement, and then you decide which priorities additionally need to be scheduled. You review your personal priorities. So here's the deal. If she's really the most important person in my life, and she is, sometimes I know that she just feels not important. And I don't know why women feel that way. I don't know what else I got to do, sometimes, But anyway, if she's not feeling that way, then that's how it is. Right? Guys, the sooner you learn that, the better off you're going to be. If she's not feeling that way, then that's the reality, even though it's not necessarily how I perceive it. So one of the first things I look at is that's why I keep my time with her sacred. Or maybe I need to say no to certain things, Are you there? Because of adjusting my schedule to help make sure that I take care of what's most important to me. What's most important to me is my wife. My family is very, very important to me. I mean, I love you guys, and I'm honored to be your pastor, but frankly, my family's more important to me than you are. And I don't mean that in a disrespectful way at all, that they're more important to me, including my grandchildren, okay? Now, so because of that, I think about what opportunities or what decisions I need to make that would include them. Are you there? Are you guys with me? Is this helping? So, time with my family. Here's a good one there, sharpening the saw. Do you guys know what sharpening the saw is? In Ecclesiastes, there's that verse says, a dull axe makes the work a lot harder. I'll find that verse. But the bottom line is you want to sharpen the axe of your life. You want to sharpen the saw of your life. What does that mean? That means some of you guys, like Brenda is a construction manager. She has her own construction company. I don't know how much contracting she does herself. I know she's capable. But the bottom line is one of the things, builders, they need tools that work. They need sharp saws. They need the right kind of power. And they need things that work. If you're a chef, you need knives that cut. They've got to be sharp. And in your life, anything that you invest in that sharpens your skills is a good thing to do. So I read a lot. I read a whole lot. Why? Because that's one way. My main tool is my mind. Then closely followed by my voice. So that's one of the reasons that I try to protect my voice. I don't like it when I can't talk like on Christmas Eve. I think some of that's an attack from the enemy, but some of it's just protecting your health, protecting your voice. Why? Because that's part of the saw of my life. Are you with me? And you guys do too. Whatever it is you need, any time you're sharpening the saw is always good things to do. Let's go to the next one. Look at your free time and decide what you want to do. Okay, and you'll find some free time in there. Then you look at that and say, this is what I want to do with my free time. Any volunteer opportunities, refreshing and renewing activities. And then obviously you look at your weekly schedule for flexibility or spontaneity. You say, Pastor, what you've just said, there's no room in my life. Well, that probably means then you haven't been thinking very strategically about your life. And if you start to do this, you're going to find that your life is going to start to get more tailored. It's going to start to get cleaner and pure. And it actually opens up more time when you start to make better decisions about your life. You're going to find how much time you've just been wasting When you say, okay, I'm going to commit this time to this, you just been, we all do it. We all waste hours and hours and hours. So I provided for you, this is, usually in our class, we'd kind of work our way through this and kind of have you on this next page here where it has my basic week. I would have you enter your immovables, kind of your priorities to get some sense of what your week looks like, and then you look for the gaps where you have free time. So if you say, Pastor, how would I do that? Well, number one, I'd cross out, I'd line out work. Like, I can choose my work schedule. It's one of the things I like most about being self-employed. I can choose my work schedule. So Monday, I basically do not work. So golf, Sherry, Monday night football. Right there. Monday's done. That's my Sabbath day. Nothing can be better, right? Sunday's obviously church. Most Sunday nights they take off. Tuesdays is staff. I usually try to take Tuesday afternoons off, and then most times I have some sort of church thing on Tuesday nights, okay? Wednesdays are flexible, pretty flexible for me. Thursday afternoons are Sherry. Thursday afternoon evenings are Sherry. Fridays are pretty flexible for me. Saturday's church in the evening, and then my preparation time. So the next thing I'd put in there is my preparation time. Then you get some sense of what else you really have time for. This really, really works. If you don't have any system that works like this, something like this will work. There are dozens of computer systems that will do this for you, so you don't have to re-enter things all the time. But you need something like this. Something like this. Are you guys here? So the reason I'm not going into a lot, because I can go into a lot of detail on how to do this, but there's so many systems of time management. I really just wanted to talk to you about priority management and how to make sure that you get these in first. That's what's important, and most people do not do that. We really don't. Fair enough? Okay, good. So let's get down to micromanagement then about your life in terms of how do you live a day well. Because a life well lived is basically just a compilation of days well lived. Okay, let's move through this. On this page it says today. Jesus said, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. With all the verses we've reviewed and the time spent on long-range planning, it might seem on the surface that preparing or strategic planning does not align with this teaching from the Sermon on the Mount. But with even a cursory understanding of the Word, we know that the full counsel of Scripture encourages long, mid, and short-range and daily planning. That said, Jesus teaches all of us to live in the moment, to be present, and not to take on the weight of things not yet happened. The only way to live a day well is to commit it to the Lord, live like He's your partner, hold nothing back. The famous UCLA basketball coach John Wooden, known not just for his championships but for his life lessons, said, too often we get distracted by what's outside our control. The door to the past has been shut and the key thrown away. You can't do anything about tomorrow. It is yet to come. However, tomorrow is determined by what you do today, so make today a masterpiece. Now, one of John Wooden's mentees, one of the men that admired him most, was the greatest Christian leadership guy in the world today. His name is John Maxwell. And he authored this little thing here, which I thought he called the Daily Dozen, but when I added them up, I think it's 13, so I don't know how that works. But anyway, so here's what he says, and these are really, really, he says he looks at this every day. And John Maxwell's, he's the real deal. I know John a little bit. He would know me by name. So here's what he has. It's called Just for Today. I will choose and display the right attitudes. I will determine and act on important priorities. I will know and follow healthy guidelines. I will communicate with and care for my family. I will practice and develop good thinking. I will make and keep proper commitments. I will earn and properly manage finances. I will deepen and live out my faith. I will initiate and invest in solid relationships. I will plan for and model generosity. I will embrace and practice good values. I will seek and experience improvements. I will act on these decisions and practice these disciplines. And then one day, I will see the compounding results of a day lived well. Pretty powerful. And if you simplify your life into just saying, I'm going to live today well, that really is manageable. It's a little bit like when you go on a diet or a fast. Come on, we're right in the middle of fasting right now. It's like when you think about 3 weeks, but if you think about, I'm going to give this to you today. I'm going to stay away from all the foods that I have been used to eating. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to make these choices. You can do it today. Are you there? And because if you say, okay, I'm never ever going to eat, a payday again. Never going to eat M&Ms again. That's a tough one to do. You say, for today, I'm not going to eat all that beautiful desserts that were given to me at Christmas. Are you there? Just for today. I'm not going to do it today. And then ultimately, when you make quality decisions day after day, you end up with a life that's pretty well lived. All right? Now, some of you might look at your life, all of you are pretty young in here, but some of you might look at your life and think, well, it's too late for me. No, it's not. I don't care if you've already blown through 16,000 days. I could figure it out. I think I've lived about 17,500 days in my life. You should figure out how many days you've lived. But you don't know how much longer you have. I might have another 12, 13,000 days. It's a lot of days. I can live them well. Live each day well. Are you with me? Okay. So, live a day well. Now, the final little section on this are my random truths and axioms worthy of consideration. This is actually my favorite part to talk about. Not necessarily the most important, but it might be. It might be the most important to you. So these are just some random thoughts. So we already worked through long range, mid range, short range, and daily living. Are you there? You got that? You got some sort of feel for that? Okay. So then here's my final goodies, little nuggets of truth from Pastor Bob. This is why you're here this morning, giving me a couple hours of your life. So here we go. Know your energy flow and take on the toughest projects at your best times. In other words, manage your energy. As you get older, you're going to find this to be more true. Man, when I was a younger guy, it just seems like I could do anything, any time of day I wanted to. And as I've gotten older, I've found that I'm not as effective at some projects at certain times of the day. So I like to figure out what my best times are and do my toughest projects at those times. For instance, I used to do my best work from 10 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. Easily. I mean, I would be like, bam, man, I'd be bright, I was thinking, so I could wait all day, not do anything, because I knew at night I was going to be, doing great. And so, man, I never see 10 o'clock anymore, man. 10 o'clock, my head's like, oh, where's a pillow, It's a pretty rare day when I'm up much past 10, and so I have to know my energy strengths, So the bottom line, I'm not even very good at night after 8 o'clock, if I don't have, unless I just have to have something done first thing the next morning, I'll just say, I'd rather get up at 5, and I do that a lot. I'd rather get up at 5 and do it from 5 to 7 than to try to grind something out from 8 to 10 anymore. That's just me. So you guys know your energy too. And I know some of you have your jobs. You have to be as good as you can at your job. But for those of us that have a little flexibility in your life, manage your toughest projects when your energy is the best. Here's the next one. Pay me now or pay me later. Don't defer maintenance too long. You guys remember that old commercial? I don't know, it was Pennzoil or something like that? You can pay me now or pay me later. In other words, either change the oil, do the maintenance, or he's from a mechanic, And the truth of the matter is, take care of the maintenance things in your life. They don't go away. Just take care of them. Take care of them on the front end. Put out the money on the front end, the expense, the time, the resource, your energy on the front end. Take care of those things now, because if you don't, you end up paying them later, right? In relationships, that's super true. Hey, when you're starting, when you realize that, you guys haven't had any time alone or any good quality time, you have to make time for that. You can't just think, well, I told you I loved you when I married you. If I change my mind, I'll let you know. That doesn't work real good, okay? Are you with me? Learn the secret of delayed gratification. That's a great principle of living your life. What does that mean? That means that pay me now, put in the price now, put in the cost now, and wait for the rewards. Don't buy things, you don't purchase things on credit cards just because you have to have them now. Wait till you can afford them. I drive a really nice car, but I'll tell you something, I drove the worst car all the way through high school and college. Matter of fact, I went to my high school reunion recently, and some of my friends said, yeah, I remember your old car I literally had what was called a singing clutch. Every time you'd push in the clutch, it'd make a high-pitched whine from the throw-out bearing. Anybody know what the throw-out bearing is? I mean, woo! And so I was always late to school. Everybody knew when I was coming to school because of my singing clutch. My point is that a lot of my friends were driving brand new Mustangs, Camaros, GTs, Firebirds. Come on, man, there's some nice cars on the campus. I was driving a 1960 Ford Fairlane, 6-cylinder, manual air conditioning. You got to roll down the windows, 3-speed on the column. Big old Ford Fairlane. It made Dave's little dinky, whatever red car he has right now. My car was 2 times that big, about the same year. And but the bottom line, I worked hard in school. I got good grades. I went to college. I went into ministry. I got a second degree as a master's degree. I got another degree. I got 2 master's degrees. And all that stuff ultimately has positioned me to be more than blessed. More than blessed. But I'll tell you, it costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of time. It costs a lot of sacrifice. So when other guys were already out there making $15 an hour building houses, I'm getting a degree. I'm passing tests. I'm studying. I'm writing papers. Because guess what? I know this is no knock. I'm just telling you that $15 an hour didn't change a whole lot over the years. Do you know what I mean? So sometimes that's part of the secret of delayed gratification. You say, Pastor, you don't know how much house builders make. Well, that's probably true. But my point is simply, if you love doing it, then do it, but do it really well. But position yourself so that at 55 years old, you still don't have to be carrying, 8 by 14 beams around. That's at 20, it maybe is not so hard. At 55, things hurt more than they used to. Are you with me? I hope I'm not offending you. I'm just saying there's a secret to delayed gratification in your life. Let's do another one. Good things come to those who wait. That's kind of the same principle. Let's press on. Plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark, right? Actually, that's one of my favorite little sayings. You're better off. I spend time planning, sometimes every day, but for sure every week. I'm planning. I'm constantly planning what's coming. Now, part of that's the nature of my job, but part of it's just the nature of my life. I'm planning. Now, I'm not. Some things I don't like to plan. I don't like to plan vacation because my life is all about planning. So when it comes to vacation, I just want somebody to take care of stuff, But a lot of things for my life, I'm planning. I'm looking at I thought you're having knee replacement. Tom, when are you getting your new knees? A week? Well, come on up here. We're going to pray for you today, too. Come sit right up in front here in just a moment. Plan ahead. It wasn't raining when Noah built the ark. Plan ahead. Plan ahead in your finances. Don't spend every last penny, right? Put some in the bank. Get some in there. Get them someplace. A credit card is not a savings account. I know we think it is. Kind of like, oh, yeah, I got the savings account. What is it? Oh, it's Wells Fargo, Visa. It's not a savings account. Savings account is a savings account. All right? That's planning ahead. Say, Pastor, you can save something. Start with $5 a paycheck. Psychologically, it is very, very good for you to save a little bit at a time, and then obviously in terms of the management of your life, plan ahead. Here's another one. It's easy to say no if there's a burning yes inside of you. What do you mean by that? You're going to get asked things all the time. We're going to ask you stuff all the time. Volunteer for this, serve here. If Pastor Dave's around, you're going to get asked to do a lot of things, right? And but if you know really what you want to do, what you're called to do, it's easy to say no to good things when you want to get to the best things for you. Say, well, then I'm just going to say no to everything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying is that know where your yeses are. Because when you say yes to something, whether you know it or not, you're automatically saying no to something else, right? That's very, very true. It's true of your money, and it's true of your time. If I say yes, let me just take money for a second. If I say yes to spending $1,000 on a flat screen TV, then by default, I'm saying no to $1,000 spent someplace else. And I just told you guys, one of my priorities is my family. And if I want to do something with my family, that's expensive. It's expensive, but that's more important to me than some. Are you there? Now, it's the same thing's true with your time. And this is very, very important, okay? There's a million things you can do with your time. But if kingdom work is really a yes in you, then you have the right and the permission to say no. Are you there? Are you with me? Okay. 100% all the time. Work hard, play hard, rest completely. How do you do everything in your life? Just do it all out. Whatever you're doing, be present in the moment, do it all out. If you're going to work hard. If you're going to play all out. If you're going to rest, sleep hard. Come on, take a sleepies or something if you need to, Whatever you need to do, do it all out. That's a great approach to your life. The most successful person I know, that's exactly his answer. I said, his name's Mike. I said, Mike, how? And because he has a great family, he has an unbelievable recreational social life. He's the most successful businessman I know, and he's a brilliant musician, I said, Mike, how do you do that? He says, I just do it all out all the time. Whatever I'm doing, I'm fully engaged in it. And that's how I try to live. I'm trying to live my life. My nature's not as much like that, but I try to do that. Okay, here you go. To get energy, you have to give it. To get love, you have to give it. To get friends, you have to be a friend. You guys understand that? To get energy, you have to give it. What do you mean? In other words, it sounds funny, but to get energy, you should go work out. You should expend it. It's true. Given will be given to you. If you need forgiveness, give forgiveness. That's a biblical principle that's absolutely true. So to get it, you have to give it. Some things are just time wasters or escapisms, TV, computer time, unimportant reading, anything other than sports. Okay, here's another one. Failing to plan is planning to fail. That's back to planning. I like that. Another one, don't prioritize your schedule. Schedule your priorities. That's what the seminar's been about today. Don't prioritize your schedule. Don't take everything that's filled your schedule and say, well, how am I going to move this here, move that around, do all that. That's not how you time plan. Are you with me? Don't do that. Take the big blocks and put them in here. Put it there. Put it there. See what else is left on the priorities. Put it there. And then see what else is being requested of you. Does that make sense? It's a big, big difference, okay? Know what you must do, those things that no one else can do for you. There are some things that a lot of people could do. There are some things that only you can do. Let me give you an example. My dad loved taking care of the physical property of the outside of the house. He enjoyed it. When he quit the service station, he would still get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, grab a cup of coffee, and then he'd go in his house and start to pick little weeds and clip little bushes. And he had a beautiful, well-landscaped house. He really enjoyed that. I hate it. Can't stand it. It was always punishment. Go pull weeds in the back. That's what we'd heard. I can't stand yard work. And guess what? That's a good thing because I don't have to do it. So I pay $32. I pay $90 a month. And we live on about a half-acre property. For $90 a month, I have my yard managed. It's not gorgeous, but it's managed all the time. Best $90 in my life that I spend. I would not give that up. I don't care if everything else went south. I'm not giving that up. All right? And well, here's the other reason why, is that anybody can do my yard, and almost anybody would do it better than me. But I'm the only grandpa that my grandkids have. I'm the only father that my children have. I'm the only husband that my wife's going to have while I'm around, okay? And there's things that only I can do. I can't delegate the vision of the church. I have to get that from I can't delegate that. Say, John, get some vision for the church. Tell me what it is, and we'll go. I can't do that. Now, it doesn't mean I don't listen to people. I'm just saying is that there's some things that I have to do that nobody else is supposed to do. Is that right? And you need to know what that is, and that will help you on your priorities. Are you there? Okay. We are almost done. Know what matters. Put a temporary sign on everything else. That's kind of the view of eternity. Know what are your replenishing relationships and activities. or you'll run out of resources. That's a good one. You understand me? Know what things in your life re-energize you, and know which things drain energy off you. I pray that today would be a replenishing thing for you. I hope it is. Some of you don't like classroom settings, are just hard for you to be in. It's not really energizing for you. I hope the content will be energizing for you. But beyond that, you need to know what brings some life back into you. You know, whatever that is, and or who in your life just pushes you forward. You think, man, I can't wait to talk to so-and-so. I can't wait to see so-and-so because, man, they just move your life forward. And don't be afraid to embrace those relationships or activities in your life. Don't feel bad about that because there's plenty of people that are going to drain off of you. There's plenty of things that are going to drain off of your thing. And you're here to give, but you have to know what re-energizes you, what inspires you, what gets you going. Do you know what that is for you guys? I mean, do you have some sense of what that is? Now, for some of you, it might just flat out be work. Say, man, I love work. That's awesome. I like my job, but I get tired. I basically am energized by people, generally speaking. Not as much as some people, but basically people energize me. I like people. Sherry likes people, but she is drained by people. By the time we leave Sunday, she is done. She does not want to see you. She doesn't want to hear your voice. She doesn't want your texts. She doesn't want your emails. I'm just telling you the truth, right? Now, obviously, she's very generous and very caring and goes way beyond. My point is, it's not refreshing to her. Are you there? It's just not, because she just gets tired. Sherry, you know how she regenerates? Alone. She reads. She studies. She walks the dog. Come on, you've heard enough stories about Molly already, right? I mean, it feels like a family member for all of you, I bet. That's how she regenerates and renews herself. You have to know what that is for your life and try to plan that in as well, too. Are you with me? Yeah. Is this helpful? Yeah. All right. The enemy of the best is the good. Sometimes people don't understand that. All I'm saying is that if you accept the good and don't wait for the best, then the good has become an enemy. Does that make sense? So remember that with your time, with your resources, everything. Things that matter most must never be at the mercy of those that matter least. Don't major on the minors. Don't sweat the small stuff. And the last one is learn to live your life for an audience of one. If you'll do that, you're going to be way, way, way happier.